Welcome to episode 3 of Jonah Wells Beyond All Borders podcast. So today we're going to be talking about autism and our autism journey. We have a 3.5-year-old currently, and his name is Forrest. And I want to really share with you what we went through as parents and also as full-time workers as well, to go through this situation of finding out your child has autism and what you do next and what you do to get that diagnosis and everything that comes in between that. So I'm going to share our personal journey from the beginning up until current day and just talk a little bit about what we did and how we got there. This episode is called How We Got Our 2-Year-Old Diagnosed on the NHS Within 6 Months. Now, not everyone is going to be able to do that, and I understand that. I'm going to share what I did in order to make that happen. So let's go back to the beginning. When Forrest was a baby, everything was normal, everything was fine. He was developing, he was smiling, he was growing nicely, and we were understanding that nothing was wrong with him. And then it got to around 10 months, I believe, and he wasn't rolling over. And I think that's the first time I realised that there was something a little bit wrong when he wasn't rolling over. And then as a parent, you read all these things online to say your child should be doing X, Y, and Z at these stages. So at 6 months, they should be doing this. At 10 months, they should be doing that. And I remember distinctly, it was at 10 months, he was supposed to be rolling over from front to back or from back to front, and he wasn't. So that's what made me panic. Now, I think when you're a mother with a new baby, especially when it's your first baby, and I was older when I had Forrest. We had him via IVF in Turkey, so I was old. I was about 37. I didn't realise what was normal and what was not normal. So everything seemed fine up until the point where the milestone stopped. So it wasn't like he regressed or anything. It was development, normal. Everything was fine. He smiled at 4 months and was laughing, and he was eating. We were feeding him like baby purees and solid foods from 4 to 5 months. So everything was going nicely, I thought, and we were working really hard to grow our baby. When he didn't roll over, I had instant panic. Like, something's wrong. He's delayed. And then you start to notice other small things, maybe flapping or the way he's walking is a bit off. And then I think what triggered the word autism for me was when he didn't respond to his name and didn't make eye contact. And that's when I thought, oh my God, here we go. This is going to be autism. And I didn't want it to be autism. I'm going to be honest. I don't think autism is a superpower. I think it's a problem. It's the thing that's taken my child's voice. So I didn't want my child to have additional problems on top of the difficulties that we have in the world as it is. As he started to grow and develop and more of these signs came out, I was increasingly getting concerned. So we involved a health visitor, and I'm going to call the health visitor and say, look, this is not right. What can we do? And then the health visitor came around and started doing checks and started looking at what was happening, why these milestones weren't being met, what was going on, what were the kind of symptoms that he was showing. And then at this stage, I didn't really have any answers, but what I did have, which every single autism or SEM parent has, is a laptop and internet. And then you go into this, I want to call it rabbit holing, and that's the only way I can describe it, where you Google, research, watch YouTube videos on every single symptom that is similar to what your child has. So you become, I don't know, most likely an expert in autism or whatever it is you're searching for. For me, also is about joining groups, forums. You become to a point where you're comparing your child to every other child. You're asking questions. When did your child talk? When did your child walk? And you tend to can't help it. I mean, I still do that now. I can't help myself. If I see a child who is now talking, I always ask the parents, well, how long was he not nonverbal for? Just to try and, I think in my head, I'm trying to mathematically work out some sort of average to make sure that I'm planning the trajectory of my child's speaking ability or walking ability. So I became a part of every single group. I researched every single piece of paper I could, every thing that was written about autism, I was reading it. Every single case study, every single Facebook or Instagram story, I was reading it to try and make sure that I was familiar with everybody's journey so that I could make sure that I could see every sign in my child. So we started having regular checkups on the health visitor. Basically, they come around and they will do milestone questions like these paper forms. Like, has he done this? Has he done this? Can he do this? Can he do that? Can he roll a ball? Can he climb a chair? And all these things where you just sit there and say, no, no, no. For weeks on end, you're just getting more and more downhearted. No, no. oh yes, he can do that one thing, but no otherwise. And then you get to a point where, okay, something's wrong, we need to get this fixed. Now, this is all before Forrest started nursery. So we're looking at around age 16 to 18 months is when I thought, okay, there is clearly autism here. I knew it was autism. Didn't want it to be autism, but I knew, and I need to do something. I need to start something. So I've asked the health visitor to put a referral in for me. Can you put me on the autism pathway or whatever it is that they do at the time? So she's done that. Asked the GP. I've asked basically everybody that comes into contact with my child to make a referral for autism or neurodivergence pathway. They've told me it's a long wait, so maybe 1 to 2 years. I'm trying to say, well, how can I have a 1 to 2 year wait when my child is 18 months and you won't see him until he's 2 years old? By the time you put him on your books at 2 years old, and I've got a 2 year wait, he won't be 4 years old until he gets seen. And I've got a fear that he needs to be sorted out before he goes into primary school, because in the event that he is still at this stage, when it comes to his primary school, like the compulsory school age for us, which is September 2027, I can't have my child non-verbal, not walking, and still in nappies at age 4, and you're telling me to put him in, I don't know, St. whatever's down the road, primary school, with a bunch of regular kids who are going to annihilate him. No, that's not going to happen. So I needed to have early intervention in terms of, let's get this ball rolling so that I've got everything organised before I've got to think about compulsory school age. At the moment, I'm safe, he's safe. We can go to private nursery where everyone's small, there's no problems, and he's looked after at home with us as well. So I was told to they gave me a right to choose number. So I researched what right to choose was, and basically right to choose is a kind of, I want to say, program where you can use a different clinic or a different location. So you can go outside of your kind of local borough or jurisdiction. For us, I was happy to go to London, Essex, Suffolk, Cambridgeshire. I would have gone anywhere in the middle of the country. I wouldn't have gone too far south because it's a big journey, or too far north. We're in the middle. I was happy to go into the middle in the surrounding counties to go and see someone to sort this out or get some sort of diagnosis. So I called the right to choose, and they said to me, you can't come on the pathway until he's 2 years old. And I said, well, what do you mean? So they said they don't accept anyone until 2, just because they can't decide whether someone is autistic or not until they've got until about 2, so they can see what's really, really missing. And I said, okay, so you're telling me I need to wait until he's 2, and then I've got a in the queue. So you're saying he can't start anything until he's 2. So why don't you start him on the list now? By the time he gets to his place, he'll be 2 years old, and then we can all get on with your alleged process. So she's saying no to me on the phone, and I'm arguing back, and it's difficult for me because when I'm trying to argue, to me, what sounds logical is that pop him in if the queue's 6 months long, pop him in the queue now. By the time it comes to his turn, he'll be the right age. Why would I start queuing at the right age and lose 6? This makes no sense to me. So I'm getting frustrated. I can hear my voice getting more and more irritated as we go along. And I'm trying to balance myself from becoming aggressive and thinking, how can I get this lady to understand understand what I'm trying to say without her hanging up on me saying that I'm being aggressive? So I've stopped and I thought, okay, this has just come out in what can only be just described as my eyeballs being turned on like taps and just crying horrifically because I'm so angry and so frustrated. After this phone call, she put me on the list. I was on a waiting list. I said, fine, makes sense. I'm on the waiting list now. I think the phone call must have been, I don't know, half an hour long, but I was crying, like ugly crying, screaming like, like really, this is ridiculous. So she's put me on the list. I'm on the waiting list now. And I'm fine, so I can get on with the other things I need to do while I'm on this right to choose waiting list to get my child seen by a specialist autism practitioner. So at this time, he comes up to the age 2. That's when we put him in his nursery, which is a small private nursery where we live, and that's fine. He's got an allocated amount of hours, which kicked in. I think so. The thing where your 2-year-old can get 15 hours of free childcare kicked in just before he turned 2. So he was able to get some support. We were able to get some support for his childcare, and then we had him in that nursery. But then nursery started to notice things as well. So without saying, "Oh, he's autistic." I was asking, "Do you think he's autistic? Do you think he's autistic?" And they're not gonna say, "Oh, yeah, I think he's autistic," but they did say, "We've seen kids who are autistic." So me putting two and two together, I've come up with with the answer. So he's clearly autistic. I knew he was already. They're giving me side eye cues that he's autistic, and then you get the one plans coming home saying he's not meeting the milestones, he's not meeting those birth to 5 year check boxes that he has to be meeting for his age group, so he's behind. So every single time you get one of these reports home, he's not meeting this, he's not meeting that, he's not meeting this. And then I've got this coming from the health visitor, he's not meeting this. So you're getting bombarded every single week with somebody telling you he's not meeting this. I get it. I understand. I'm getting it from left, right, and centre. And all I'm thinking is, why my child? What have I done to deserve my child being punished? Have I done something wrong? Do I need to repent? So then the guilt comes, and it's, I think, probably the last 2 years. Well, how old is he now? 3.5. So the last 3 years, just under 3 years, has been probably the hardest time of my life, having to figure all this out. So also at the same time when he was 2, I'd applied for his DLA. So DLA is a disability living allowance, which is like government money for children with disabilities. Now, the problem that we have is that with my salary and my husband's salary combined, on paper, it's well above thresholds for any sort of other support. But DLA is the one thing that you can get regardless of your income. So it's based on the child's needs, not based on your. Was good because I needed to get him special snacks that he only eats. I needed to use that to pay for some of his nursery time so that I could go to work, and then also some of his sensory toys or things that he liked to play with. Because every single toy I bought, what's this? How do I use this? Spins it, puts it down. Spins a toy, puts it down. So every single thing that we bought him was difficult for us because I didn't know what toys he would enjoy. So you spend just, every week buying a different toy. Do you like this? Presenting it. So these things add up. So we got allocated middle rate DLA at around 2 years old. Before we got you don't need a diagnosis for this. This was just to help him because he obviously had needs, and that money is for him for the things that he needs based on his medical issues. So I was asked by a number of people, why are you so obsessed with getting him diagnosed this early? Why, like, what's the point? What's the point? And I said, my point is one thing. Not only am I obsessed with the phrase early intervention, but also I've got ADHD, so my mind will work in variables. So if you say, for example, this is a problem that I've got now, what is this problem going to be like in 5 years' time? So I've got a child now who is not showing signs of potty training, not showing signs of walking. I mean, he walked at 2 years old, so at the time there was no signs of walking. There was, for me, a strange play thing. There was no like pretending to do anything. The play was all very twisty and droppy and sound making. He wasn't lining things up, but the play was, for me, I found it strange, and he wouldn't want to play with me. It's only recently he will roll a ball back and forward with me now, but this has come with a lot of turn-taking kind of games. It's why he's so obsessed with getting this all done. I'm like, well, I need to get as much figured out as I can before he starts primary school. I can't have a child who is going to be 4 years old, not able to do things other 4-year-olds can do. So with my ADHD, I can see every possible outcome or every possible scenario that will be in that time. So what my brain will do is, if it has, like, let's say there's like hundreds of different strings, different pathways that my child could end up on at 4 years old. So I've plucked out the positive ones because a positive pathway, if it turns out to be positive, I haven't got a problem. So I only need to address negative situations. If it works out to be positive, and I've got a backup plan for all the negatives, it's a win-win situation. So let's eliminate all the positive scenarios. What do we do with a child who can't fit into a mainstream school at 4 years old if I've got the situation now? So I need this piece of paper. You already know he's autistic. I'm like, yes, I know he's autistic in my head, but I need that bit of paper because this is how the system works. You need to make sure that you treat your life as a SEM parent like a court case, exactly like a court case. So everything you do is about documentation, letter writing, building a case file, and making sure that you've got everything, all your kind of ducks in a row. So the quicker you get that piece of paper that says your son is being formally diagnosed, that basically is the first key to unlocking the door. And you need to think about these doors. There's a door, then the next little corridor is very short with another locked door. Every bit of paper that you achieve is a key to opening that door out of that courtroom and getting yourself to a kind of garden or freedom. So we wanted that diagnosis badly, and I personally wanted it badly because I knew I needed it cemented as well. And again, I was hoping that I was wrong. I was praying that I was wrong and that my child was just a little bit delayed. He'll catch up and we can all get on with this life that I planned in my head of taking him to an ice cream parlour. Doesn't eat ice cream. Cooking him all these foods and enjoying making pancakes together and playing Little Master Chef. Hardly eats anything. So all the things that I imagined doing as a parent have kind of been thrown out the window. So there's always still going to be that hope that one day he will eat this, he will talk, he will do these different things. And those hopes are always going to be there. But for now, this is my situation and this is what I've got to do. So we get to a point now where 5 months has gone past. He was 2 and he's had his appointment come up for the right to choose for his autism diagnosis. So we go to this place, and I think it's in Chelmsford. So we got provided wellbeing. It's a nice clinic. It's like a little farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. And there's a husband and wife duo. Husband's on a computer typing, and the wife's sitting down on the floor where there's all these toys are left on the floor. So we come in, we sit down. She asks us a few questions, and then she just lets him play. And as I watch him play, I know exactly what she's going to say to me. So I watch him play, and I've got a single tear streaming down my face because I know what's going to happen. Sorry. Gosh, the memory of this is so clear. Sorry. Okay, so the memory of this is so clear, but I know exactly what she's going to say to me as I watch him pick up these toys and spin them and drop them and just not even engage with her, not give her any eye contact. And yeah, I think it must have felt like the longest half an hour I've ever had. And then she looks at me, looks at her husband, and she says, "Yeah, he's got autism." And I lost it. I absolutely lost it. I didn't want that for my child. And that wasn't what I wanted for my family. And I wanted him to have the best in life. And that basically cemented what I already knew all this time. And so after like a year and a half of knowing I had that piece of paper, so it was kind of relief, grief, and heartbreak at the same time. And oh dear, I wasn't prepared for that. And it makes things real. And I walked out of there just I don't know, I don't even know what the feeling was. It was relief and grief. And I was grieving so hard for what plans I had while I was pregnant. It was a feeling that I'd never experienced. It was so confusing. It was knowing that I've got this piece of paper which turned into this key to unlock the next step, but also knowing that my child was going to have a struggle for the rest of his life. So they said to me they'll send me the report. They said they'll contact the GP, and that was that step done. So now I had this provide wellbeing report that basically is his diagnosis. I was still on the NHS pathway in the queue waiting, and I still was going through. I didn't tell them I had a diagnosis, but I was still going through their pathway. And I had spoken to them about genetic testing. I said I really wanted to get Forrest, myself, and David genetically tested to make sure that there wasn't anything, I don't know what you'd call it, but anything serious in his genes that will say he's got some sort of syndrome. So the whole point was to find out, was the autism a primary or secondary diagnosis? So when I say that, I mean, if you have autism as the primary diagnosis, you're autistic. That's part of your makeup. It's just how you're born. It's who you are. You're autistic, and you have those traits of autism. But then you've got the place where you can have autism as a symptom, as opposed to the main situation. So I guess, I don't know, for example, if you've got another issue like Prader-Willi syndrome, or, and again, I'm not a doctor to be listing out syndromes, but if you've got something else which comes with autism or comes with autism-like symptoms, then you tackle that situation differently. So I needed to know, was he autistic, or was autism a side effect, if that makes sense? And as I spoke to the NHS pathway, it came out that I'd already got a diagnosis from Right to Choose. So I think they were a bit upset with me because they said that I was preventing a child from having a space. And my point was, well, no, I hadn't accomplished what I needed to accomplish. I pay my taxes. This is my space and I'm using it. So I wasn't stopping anyone from having a space. Everyone's got a space. It's just, we're just in a queue. And I still wanted to go through the process with the NHS pathway. So I wasn't going to be made to feel guilty for keeping my queue place. So I said, okay, look, this is where we are now. There's no point going on about it, but I still need that genetic testing, which is the WGS testing. So it's whole genome sequencing, as opposed to the microarray, which is a microarray testing is a kind of smaller version of the testing. So I said, I don't want that. I want the full WGS testing. And they said, yeah, that's fine. So I think they pushed me to the end of that pathway, and they confirmed the diagnosis. So I basically got 2 diagnoses, one from Right to Choose and one from the NHS pathway. So the GP had both of those. So I got a letter from that. I also asked them to do me a Section 23. I'll put this in the show notes because I don't know as much about what it is for, because my friend at the time told me to get that. But I think it's a document that goes to your local council or borough to let them know that your child is a child with a disability. So maybe it's just more evidence. I didn't know, I haven't used it for anything, but I just requested it and I wanted it. The council now know that my child is a child with additional needs and autism, and therefore it just adds to his case. And later down the line, when it comes to the EHCP, his education healthcare plan, I've covered all my angles. So we get to the end. She's referred me to our local hospital to do blood tests for all 3 of us, my husband, myself, and Forrest, so we could get our genetics tested. Now, there's meant to be a 6 to 12 month wait on the results. We did this and the results came back quite quick. I called the genetic guy every single month to say, hi, I'm still here, don't forget about me. I think within 6 months I had results and the results were negative. Nothing there, nothing unusual, which is what I knew it was going to come back, like nothing unusual on his genetics. I knew that autism was the primary issue, the main issue, the issue. But I'm not a doctor, so I had to eliminate. So I'm going through a process of elimination with all of these things, and I had to eliminate that as an option. So we've at a stage now where we've got his diagnosis, we've done his genetic testing. He's already in a nursery, which is not. It's nice for him. He's doing well. He's just plays by himself, and he's got his staff that help him. But we had to go through a series of other tests or loopholes that you go through as part of the NHS pathway. So we had to do his hearing test, we had to do his visual test, we did a number of different speech and language loopholes, all the things that the NHS offered. I took all of them. I went to classes, I went to workshops. Things, again, it's difficult for me because I had already researched everything, so I knew it, and people would give me advice on potty training. I know it's not working. People give me advice on nutrition. I know it's not working. People were telling me I have to narrate everything that I'm doing, which again is unnatural for me, but I did it, and he wasn't talking. It's taken this amount of time for him to acquire new skills, new language, and every day a little bit more is developing, but I had done everything that they had told me to do, and I'd gotten to where I was now. So I actually thought getting his diagnosis would be quite difficult. That wasn't really the biggest trouble. I think between getting that diagnosis, which we got probably this time last year, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this time, summer of last year, we got his diagnosis. And between the summer of last year, getting his diagnosis, and this summer this year, which is 2026, has probably been somewhat horrific in terms of trying to secure his EHCP and his special school placement. So that was a whole nother process. And again, that was probably so emotional and so draining trying to secure his EHCP. That's a full other episode, and that's a full other situation that I'll talk about probably in next week's episodes, going through how to secure his EHCP. Probably took me about 7 months to get that sorted out and get his special school placement sorted out as well. So that'll be next week's episode. But looking back, getting that diagnosis was probably the easiest part of this journey. And I had to really start thinking about education. What was going to be the best path for him? Now, in reality, my thought process was two things. I was going to secure his special school placement. That wasn't up for negotiation. I was going to get placement. And then if it got to a point where he was in his placement and he just flourished and everything just went, I don't know, to normal, to typical, then I have the easier option of taking him out of a special placement and putting him in a mainstream placement. It is easier to do that than it is leaving it later, putting him through mainstream, and then trying to put him into a special placement. Because if he's in mainstream, they will say, well, he's already in mainstream. So my goal was to get him a special placement and choosing the right school and making sure that was secured. So just to really have some final thoughts on this episode, I just want to make it clear that getting the autism diagnosis is not the end of the journey. It's basically the beginning. It is just the beginning. But it's probably the hardest part in terms of that feeling of having what you know is true confirmed, but also having to think, how is life going to look like now? What is life going to look like now? An unconventional family, and figuring out how to accept that was going to be a challenge, and I'm still working on it. My son is the biggest joy of my life, but at the same time, I don't want him to struggle in a world where people are cruel and society isn't designed for people like him. At the end of the day, I'm his voice. I will always be his voice, and that was the beginning of our journey, and we're still in it. I think in the next episodes, we'll go through all of the EHCP related scenarios, SEM placement, refusal to assess, mediation, educational psychologists, the whole journey we're going to talk through, and I'm going to share with you how I personally think I nailed getting that EHCP, because I know people who started it before me and they're still in some sort of battle. So I think it's just about knowing how to tackle challenge. I'm solution focused, so it's knowing how to tackle challenges, and I'm going to share that with you guys because I think everyone deserves their child to have what they think is necessary for them to flourish. I want you guys to be able to think, if you are struggling, if you are worried about your child's development, or any of the educational things, and you just want a bit of support, then reach out to us. You can check the website, journalwell.com. On there is how to contact us. We don't sell anything. Everything is free. It's a resource. It's content for you. And there's links to autism related support. You can contact me. You can ask questions. You can check out our Instagram, our YouTube channel, our podcasts, and then also our brand new TikTok account with little stories of our journey and how we get on and how we do life, how we navigate life. And I just really hope that a little part of this helps you to navigate your own journey with your SEN child and family. And just comment and tell me what your struggles were. Tell me what your successes were. What was your highlights? What have you achieved? I think we all need a pat on the back, and we all need to tell each other how well we're doing, because this is no easy feat. It's not normal for us to have to fight this hard to give your child education, give your child support, give your child speech therapy. You don't see other parents with neurotypical children having to fight just to get their child into school. What we have to go through every day is a battle, and I want to be here for all of you. So reach out, put some comments, and like and subscribe, please, so that I can get this out to more people. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.